Let's talk about how we're getting leads for free. So you don't have to buy ads, you don't have to pay for the leads. It just takes a little bit of time to do some outreach. And we're seeing like 10 to 30% conversion rates from outreach to calls. So like generally speaking, like a cold outreach campaign is like a 1% conversion rate. And this is at least 10 times better than that. So I want to go through all 3 steps of how this whole thing works. And I think you'll find it a little bit eye-opening because most people forget the first step and jump straight to the second step. So we'll go through all 3 steps so you can see how this works. But I also want to touch on some things that don't work just because I talk to a lot of web designers. Like, in Blue Theory, like if you go to lee.blue, you'll see our Blue Theory community. Well, a lot of conversation happens in there. And I want to bring up some things that are just common pitfalls with regard to lead generation, because by far the most common question that I get is, hey Lee, how do I get more clients? I need more clients right now. How do I get the leads? How do I get the clients? And so let's go through exactly how to do it. But some of the things that don't work, it doesn't work very well. And so what I'm talking about right now is getting the lead and like, how do you start that conversation? And a lot of people think, well, what if I offered an SEO audit or a site review or a site audit? Or what if I even did the site review for free and then emailed a video of me kind of going through somebody's site and telling them what the opportunities are they had to make it better? The problem with all of those things is it makes the recipient, like the person that you're reaching out to, it generally makes people feel bad. Like basically what you're saying is, here's a big list of all the problems that you've got. You probably don't even understand what they are. And in order to fix any of them, you got to pay me a lot of money. You see what I mean? So it's like, it doesn't really generate leads very well anymore. And so what I like to do instead is flip that whole thing on its head and offer something that actually feels good. It feels good to offer. It feels good to receive. It's giving. It triggers this feeling of reciprocity in the client that you're working with. It's like, it's so much better. And so I want to talk through the 3 steps that we go through to make that work. And I think that's a really big reason for why we're getting 10 to 30% conversion rates. Before we jump into it, look at this clip from one of our coaching calls, and you can see what I'm talking about.
I've reached out to 8 people since Monday, and I've already got 2 bites.
So like 8 people, 2 calls. That's a 25% conversion rate.
That's crazy. It's awesome. It's all I need to just like keep going, just having people respond like right away.
Okay, so how does that actually work? So there's 3 steps in the process. The first step is you got to have an offer. And when I talk about offer, I don't mean the service that you offer. Like I know a lot of times people say, well, I'm offering web design service, I'm offering SEO service. I'm not talking about that kind of offer. I'm offering a result, not a service, but a result. And I do that for 2 reasons. The first reason is that's really what clients want. Like they want more traffic, more leads, more clients, more revenue. Like they want some kind of an outcome-driven result. And for me, what I know about that is if I want to do the best stuff that I've got and actually create these results, the client's going to have to buy more than one thing. Like they can't just buy the website and expect to get great results. They're also going to need something that drives traffic, and they need to convert traffic into leads. They need to nurture the leads into clients. So like I've got a whole bundle of things that I need to do in order to get the client the result that they need. So what I want to do is instead of focusing on all these line item services, I want to focus on the outcome that the client wants. And if we agree that that is what they want, then I can say, hey, if this is what you want, then buy this package. And so now I'm selling all of my best stuff in one fell swoop. And the client only has to say yes to one thing. Do you want this outcome? If so, get this. And this like all of my best stuff. So I don't have to line item my way to, hey, do you want this? Okay, cool. Do you want this? Okay, cool. Do you want this? And just kind of like go off and get like a million yeses in order just to do all the stuff that I know that I need to do. Like I said, do you want this outcome? Yes, get this solution. This is what I refer to as a solution first agency. You come up with the solution first, and then that creates the outcome the client wants. And then you say, would you like to subscribe to this solution? And I say subscribe because it's probably an outcome that's an ongoing outcome. It's not just like you get one client and you're done. It's like your client probably wants an ongoing stream of new clients, right? And so that means they keep working with you basically forever. And so that means you have a long-term recurring revenue, high-ticket client, and they only had to say yes to one thing. And then that allowed you to give them the entire bundle of services and your solution. So with all of that being said, that's what I mean by a solution or by an offer. But there are 3 components to the solution that I feel like are really, really important. The first one is the solution needs to have a very clear outcome. And the outcome is probably going to fall into one of 3 areas. In fact, it's probably going to be a combination of these 3 areas. The first is some kind of increased revenue. It's going to be more traffic, more leads, more clients, but ultimately it means increased revenue, right? So like that's going to be growth. The second component is decreased expense. So can I create a faster sales cycle? Can I make it more efficient to onboard clients? Can I reduce the amount of support that's going into somebody's business? Like if they're getting a lot of calls, maybe I could put an online knowledge base out there, and then their customers could sort of self-help their way through at least entry-level, level 1 kind of support questions. And now they don't have to take as many calls, and that kind of reduced costs. And then the third component is what I refer to as like personal satisfaction or peace, or just like the relief that comes from not having these problems that we just solved. Like you sleep better at night, you're able to hang out with your family more, you can just get it off your chest, right? It's like there's value in that. Like the value of that is not zero, right? There's value in that. Now it's harder to measure because it's more personal, but it's not zero. And those are the three areas that I like to pull from when I'm trying to calculate what is the outcome that I'm giving to the client. It's like growth, savings, and relief, right? So those three things are kind of like the main thing that I'm looking for. Okay, so thing number one is the solution has to have a clear outcome like that. Thing number two is those outcomes that we're talking about, they need to be business problems. It can't just be, let me get your site to load faster, or let me get your site to look better on a mobile device. Like those are stepping stone goals. Like it needs to load fast and it needs to look good on a mobile device, but that's not enough. Like those things need to translate into some sort of a business result. Otherwise, the solution's not big enough to be a high-ticket solution. You got to solve a big problem if you want to put a big price on it. And so like it's got to be some kind of a business outcome. And then the third thing is it's got to be measurable. Like it can't just be the relief thing. It's also got to be either increased growth or decreased costs. It's got to be some kind of a measurable thing, because if it's not measurable, the client won't be able to visualize what it is. If it's like one of the biggest problems with web design that we've got to overcome is web design is technical, it's abstract, it's complicated, and people that aren't like you and me probably don't really even understand what we're talking about. It's like, oh, it's just over everybody's head. And so like it's one of the challenges that we have in terms of marketing our own businesses is to figure out how do we get a clear offer that people can actually understand. And if it's measurable, that really, really helps people say, oh, like if I could see my bank account bopping up to this number, or if I could see my calendar getting filled up to this degree, I mean, those are things that are measurable and visible, and you can see if you're doing it or not. So those are the three things: clear outcome, a business problem, and something that's measurable. So I kind of bundle all of that into the solution, and that's step one. And you got to do step one, because if you jump straight to step two, which is the outreach is going to fall flat, because a lot of times you just say, well, I'm going to fall back and just do a site review or a site audit, or SEO audit or something like that. And that's kind of one of those feel bad lead magnets. They just don't convert very well. So step two is doing proactive outreach. And so what I'm talking about with proactive outreach, like what can you do on your own to create leads for yourself? So that you don't just rely on referrals or somebody's like organic discovery of your website, just blogging and searching and stuff like that. Because like, what happens if that's not happening? Like what happens if you're not getting any referrals right now and nobody's finding your site right now? What are you gonna do? Just twiddle your thumbs and wait? It's like, it's great when you do get referrals or when somebody does discover you organically, but that's the icing on the cake. It's not the cake itself, right? So like, you need, in order for me to feel comfortable with the consistency of my business, so that it's not spiky, it's not feast or famine, it's like I need to know how to do something to generate my own leads. And if I get referrals or someone does discover me organically, that's just a blessing on the side. That's just like an extra bonus, right? But the main thing, the main engine is I want to know how to proactively get my leads so that if I'm noticing that there's nothing on my calendar, I can do something about it rather than just waiting for someone else to do something for me. So proactive outreach. So what I'll do is I'll go back to step one and I'll look at the solution that we've got, and then I'll pluck off the very first step of the solution. And it could be anything, but it has a couple of features that you're looking for. It needs to be discrete, meaning that you don't want to have a lot of scope creep. It needs to have a start and stop point. And you don't want it to be a huge thing like building a whole website for somebody, because like you don't want to do that for free. But so I'm looking for like the very tiniest first step that I could do. And then I like to offer that first step for free to get the conversation going. And by giving something to somebody, rather than asking them for something or telling them something bad about something that they've got, if I give something to somebody, I feel good about that. And the client feels good about that too. And then there's this feeling of reciprocity that gets established and you start building rapport. And this is great because it's like you're working with cold traffic. And that's a big part of all this to kind of get that relationship, get that trust going. And so I'll pluck off the first thing. And it's something small. It could be like, hey, let me help you set up your Yelp profile. Or let me optimize your LinkedIn page. Or maybe I could help you optimize your Google business profile. There's something small like that. But it's discreet. And like any of those three things would be a great thing to offer to do to help somebody out. And it's like, they'll be better off if you do that. Even if they don't hire you for anything else, if you optimize their LinkedIn profile so they get more visibility on LinkedIn, and that's a platform where like maybe you're working with an accountant or something like that, or a bookkeeper, it's like that will get them more business by itself, right? And that's a great thing to offer. And so like then you have this outreach strategy that you can use to start bringing in some clients. That's awesome. So that's the proactive outreach. And another thing that's really interesting about that is it's the very tippity first step of the offer that you've got. And so it just naturally flows into saying, hey, well, here's the rest of the offer. And it's kind of like a nice, smooth segue into your paid services, right? So you're not just going around setting free things up just for fun. It's like, it is fun, but it also can be a nice segue into the rest of your offer. And they say, hey, this person did a good job. We've been talking on Zoom or whatever. I like you and you're trustworthy and you're giving me this thing. It's like, yeah, it makes sense to go ahead and take the next step. And that's why we're saying these 10 to 30% conversion rates from outreach to calls. It's unbelievable. But then there's the third step. And the third step is onboarding the client. And it segues right into the second step because like when you're on that call, kind of helping somebody with something, you need to then move them into a paid service. And so one of the things that's really interesting is I'll talk to a lot of people who feel like they're very good at closing, like at sales and stuff. They'll say something like, hey, if I can just get somebody in a meeting, there's like a 99% chance they're going to work with me. And then I say, well, how do you get people in meetings? He's like, yeah, most of my leads come in through word of mouth referrals. And the problem with that is when you get a referral from someone, you're borrowing the trust and authority from the person who created the referral, right? So like if a friend of mine refers you to me, and then we start meeting and I like you, that's really all I'm looking for is like, do we work together well? I mean, are you nice? Do I feel like I'd get good customer support? That kind of a thing. But like, I probably am already prepared to hire you unless you disqualify yourself in some way, right? Because like this mutual friend that we have has probably told me something like, hey, I got to work with you because, you know, this person over here has worked with you a bunch of times and you do great work and I saw some of the work you did. It's like, I'm already sold. And as long as you don't do something disqualifying, then I'm going to work with you. But when you're using this outreach strategy that we just talked about, we don't have that borrowed trust and authority from this mutual friend that we've got. We're working with cold leads. And so what that means is you have to start the relationship from scratch. And so like you have to build the trust and build the relationship from nothing. And that's a very different thing. And it requires a pattern. Like it's a different way of thinking about onboarding the client, not only from the relationship standpoint, but also from the mindset. Like where's your heart in this whole thing? Because usually if you're getting a referral from somewhere, what's probably going to happen is you'll talk to the person to try to figure out what they want. Like if you're getting a referral from a mutual friend, the mutual friend probably is not positioning the referral in the optimal way. They're probably saying, like for me, when I used to get referrals, I was known as the web design guy or the website guy. And so then I would have to then talk to people and figure out what kind of website do they want? Is it e-commerce? Is it local business? Is it like whatever? You know, is it a website at all? Maybe it's like an email marketing thing. Or I remember one time I was supposed to migrate somebody from Infusionsoft to Salesforce, which had nothing to do with web design at all. It's like, you got to talk to them and figure out what they want. And so you end up delivering these like custom solutions. But with this new approach, like with the proactive outreach strategy where you get to kind of reach out to cold traffic, it's a completely different thing because you're not interviewing the client to figure out what they want so you can develop a custom solution. It's completely different. Now what you're doing is you're qualifying the client to see if they're a good fit for the solution you already have. Remember back in step one, we already made the solution. And then right now, when we're onboarding the client, if it does turn out that they are a good fit, then you don't have to write a proposal. You've already got the proposal. You've already got the whole thing. You can just say, hey, do you want to get started? And boom, off you go. You just set up the pricing and make it easy to start. So you don't have to write custom proposals anymore, which saves an ungodly amount of time, right? It's a ton of time. So it's really efficient, ton of time saved. And here's the best part of all. So when you start getting clients coming in, like we just talked about, where you're proactively outreaching to the clients you want to work with, onboarding them into the solution that you already have, the more clients you get, the better you become at delivering the outcome that we were just talking about back in step 1. And so that means the longer you do this, the better the results. The better the results, the more you can charge. But it gets even better than that, because as you keep doing this over and over, you'll get your systems and processes really efficient. And so you'll be able to get faster and faster and faster. Now with all the AI tools that are out there, bring some of that into the mix and get even more efficient. And so you're getting better and better and better results with less and less and less effort, and you're pulling your margins open, right? You're creating these big margins for your work, and that is where all the profit comes from. And so it's great for, everyone is winning when this happens, because your clients are getting really, really good results. You're able to get those results with less and less and less effort, so your profit margins are great. So your clients are getting great results, you're getting your high ticket, long-term, high profit work, and everybody's winning. It's so awesome. So and it all boils down to those 3 steps that we just talked about. And this is what we do in Blue Theory. So if you want help with any of this, I'll help you build your offer, help you get the outreach system going, help you dial in how to do this close. You get a whole script for that whole thing. Check it out over at lee.blue, or check out this next video, and I'm going to show you part of the way that we onboard clients is through a data-driven approach. And I think if you check this thing out over here, check out this video, and I'll show you how the data-driven approach to onboarding clients works, and that'll set you apart from everybody. So check that out.